Welcome to the book of Psalms, and our study today is in chapter 64. And we've entitled this psalm, Wet Tongues and Bent Bows. A very interesting and unique title, and you'll see where we got that from as we get into the book of Psalms today. Here is the overall outline, and as I say each introduction to each of the Psalms, that the Hebrews, the Jewish Bible, has Psalms as 5 different books that make up the one book of Psalms. This is their outline and how it is taught and read. And there is a hard copy. I teach these lessons to a Sunday school class as well as to the world, anybody that will listen. And there is a Word document. I'll be glad to email it to you. Everything's free of charge. Just email me and tell me what you would like. Here's our introduction. It was written by David. We know that because it's in the prescript before we get into the psalm. We know that it was written to the chief musician, meaning it was turned over to Asaph for him to write the music and for performance and production. Chronologically, it fits in at 1 Samuel 22, verse 5. And so the backstory here is David has been on the run from King Saul. He has previously been anointed by Samuel the prophet, but will not take the throne till King Saul dies. In 1 Samuel 22, it opens with David and his mighty men at Adullam. A prophet is sent by God to tell him, David, to leave immediately. He gathers his men, and they find refuge in the forest of Hereth. All right, so let's just see where they're at. Here's Adullam. Gives you an idea there. Do you see, if you go to the upper right, on the east edge, is Jerusalem, and then Bethlehem is a little bit closer there. So they're about 12, 15 miles probably away from Bethlehem. Is where he is. Here is a red pin, and Adullam is right at the top of the, I'll just call the balloon pin, at the very top of the bloom where the blue arrow is pointing, and then you see Hereth. And so he came down through the valley, and he hid in a forest area there. So the blue arrow indicates we've not really started David's reign yet. The outline for this psalm: preserve me from fear, David cries out. Hide me from the wicked. Defend me from attacks. And so a lot of this is, Lord, to save me, help me, get me out of this. And in this case, David has no offense to offer except what the Lord does. So preserve me from fear. Hear my voice. David is crying, listen to me, Lord, please. O God, in my prayer, in my meditation, preserve my life. Guard me. The word preserve means to guard or be my watchtower. Watch over me, my refuge. They're all the same word and the same meaning in that arena. And preserve, guard my life from fear, or actually dread, of the enemy. So David had great dread of the enemy. They were getting close. And so if you're like a regular human being, the closer an enemy gets, or a problem gets to us, or a deadline, the fear level goes up. Then David says, hide me from the wicked. So remember, the Lord's brought him into the forest area. And David in this psalm is just praying, Lord, keep me hid here. Don't let me be found. And so there's some aspects here under this and some lessons to learn. And it's all about wet tongues in the first 2 verses. And we'll put these together in a minute. Hide me, once again, preserve me, guard over me from the secret council or the assembly of the wicked. So Saul's army has gotten together. And they have one thing in mind: to capture and kill David. From the insurrection or the throng, just a mighty force of the workers of iniquity or of wickedness. So iniquity and wicked are the same, but translated a tad differently here. So first of all, David is saying there's a mighty force coming at me, hide me, who whet or sharpen their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words. And so they have used a stone and wet it down and sharpened their swords on the whetstone. And it's talking about that they wet their tongue like a sword. And so they're using water and sharpening it, that they have bitter things to say and unkind things, their vocabulary. They've got battle talk in mind of nothing good's going to come of this. Then there's fearless attacks that's on the way, that they may shoot in secret or in hidden places. So you're going to have archers hidden, and hopeful that David and his mighty men come by, and they will ambush him. They'll be in the trees, behind rocks, hidden in areas. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. And the word, their secret and hidden places are perfect or complete. They're well camouflaged. And so David doesn't always know where this stuff's coming from. But do you see the dual story here? There's the literal Saul's army coming after him. And then there's the symbolism that David used, such as a whetstone, such as arrows, such as being like the tongue. And once again, he's talking about this right here. And suddenly they'll shoot literally the arrows, ambush, but they have nothing good to say when they get back to Jerusalem or anywhere they go about David. And then there are secret devisers. They encourage, they become very resolute. They're in the same company, so they talk the same talk, and they all agree to be the same way. And they are resolute. They encourage themselves in an evil matter and wicked speech. They commune or just muse. They just continually to think and devise ways to take him down, of laying snares in hiding. They say, who shall see them? Nobody's going to find me out. They think they're protected because they're in Saul's army. They search out iniquities or injustice. They accomplish a diligent or a disguised search. They hide themselves. They blend into a crowd of good folk. Both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. And so there's a real mess that David is facing here. It is to a very large degree. Wickedness and evil is afoot here. So David, once again, appeals to the Lord and says, defend me from attacks. But God shall shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly they shall be wounded. When you bring God into the equation, the scale dips and changes. So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. So all of a sudden, those that they've gathered in the crowd they'll see them for what they are. And all men shall fear, and shall declare the work, or make known the work of God, for they shall wisely consider of his doing, or of God's work. And so the people of Israel, the people that have been sucked into these towns as Saul's army goes through, as they're in Jerusalem and Saul is speaking and causing problems, and gets a crowd. All of a sudden they see God steps in, and it's like the light gets turned on, and they see what's really happening here. The righteous shall be glad in the Lord and shall trust in him, and all the upright in heart shall glory. The righteous are the just in heart, those that know the Lord. Trust, once again, that's place of safety or a refuge. and shall trust in the Lord, and all the upright in heart shall glory, shall shine. The people that know the Lord, all of a sudden the testimony and the glory and the righteousness of God will shine, and truth will shine through their life. So it's important to rejoice in the things of God. Here's our sources. My email address again, and my thanks for listening to this psalm. And my prayer that if you find yourself in a hard place today, the lesson and the takeaway from this psalm is quit looking around. Quit trying to see who's talking behind your back or plotting or seeking to hurt you, or quit thinking about those that you know are. And maybe look down instead of out in meditation, and then look up to the Lord. God bless you, and see you at the next psalm.